Okay, well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here and present the SA1 status and overview. What I would like to do today is to show you, to explain you where SA1 is, as we have been the first group starting in 6G, and that's what I will try to do the next half an hour. Or a bit less, let's see. Okay, let's see if I can go through my slides. So what I would like to start is to tell you that SA1 is busy with release 20. I guess most of you knows already the functioning of 3PP. We work on in releases and which is kind of versions of the standards. And right now where we are is in release 20. And why I wanted to start with this slide is because release 20 for SA1, but also for 3PP is a bit special. Because we are in a release which is between generations of the system, right? As you see, 3PP, this is the timeline for the whole 3PP. We have divided the release in the 5G advanced part and in 6G. And as you see, you will see the different stages. You will see SA1, that is the group that I lead, working on requirements and services, and that is the stage 1 of the process. That's why we are already working intensively in release 20. We have already started a long time ago with this. So my presentation today, I will divide it again on the same topics. First, I would like to present you what we are doing in 5G Advanced, and later I will explain the initial steps on what I call our road towards 6G. We just agreed the 6G study at the last meeting, and I would like to explain you a bit what are our plans, how do we get there, and what could be really interesting for most of you, or for a lot of you, I hope, which is the next steps. So if I start with 5G Advanced, what I would like to do is to take one step back. I hope you all allow me and talk about release 19, the last release, the one that we already closed more than 1 year ago in SA1. But I thought it was important to show you two things, or to say and share with you two things. First, as you see, we kind of divided the release in what we call new features, enhancements of existing features, and studies or work that is more focused on verticals or end-to-end. And what I think it was interesting for release 19 is that you will see in the new features some what I would like to call more futuristic features, like sensing, like metaverse, which other people call immersive experience, or the zero energy device, semi-IoT device, which many companies believe that they were there in the limit of are this 5G, is this 6G, is this part 5G or 6G? Those parts were already taking the study of the requirements in release 19. The other stages decided how to do it later. And then we will have other services like energy efficient, IML, where we really spent quite some time that, and other verticals that we address, like UAVs of FNFCS, which is for railways. Around 80% of this work was already continued in stage 2 and stage 3, sensing being a bit special because RAN decided only to do a small study, but I guess the RAN 1 chair who already speak before me already explained all of this. And why I say this, and I give you the timeline again, where I would like to show you that I'm focusing on the first part, on the release advance, and I would like to already made the focus on that we will have 2 3PP workshops in December only for 5G, for the 5G advanced part. It's because the the comparison with what we are doing in 5G Advanced for release 20 is good to see. As you see, I went from a really popular full slide to a slide with only 3 topics. But again, this is because the group decided once we knew that the release was going to be, or that 5G Advanced and 6G were going to coexist in the same release, the group decided to only have 3 topics in 5G Advanced. And actually, you will see that there are no new features introduced. We are only extending on enhancements, on enhancing features that you will recognize from release 19. Like, for example, energy service as a criteria, satellite access, and FMCS, which I would like to explain you a bit. So first, the energy serve as a criteria. What we did already in release 19 was, like the title said, that energy serve, that energy efficiency, that the energy consumption is part of the criteria when we deliver services. And this is associated to application policies, to application preferences, and also we discussed and had requirements about linking this to subscription. So what we are doing now in the next release is to go one step beyond, and that criteria joins or is selected with information exposure of some characteristic, for example, energy consumption or the mix on the energy source or the availability of that energy. And of course, we will do that to authorize parties, but also the possibility of a potential dynamic adjustment. So not only choosing if we are thinking about the streaming, not only choosing the right streaming from an energy perspective at the beginning of the service, but being able to dynamically adjust the service according to this criteria. If I go to satellite, and I will not extend myself a lot on this, as I know that my colleague Nicolas Schubert will explain you a lot about NTN in the next half an hour. What we did, as you see, we are talking about satellite access phase 4. What we did is, again, one more step in the satellite integration of on the satellite integration in 3GPP. Here we were
recording in progress.
We are enhancing 2 existing use cases. We are enhancing features that are existing, like the support for emergency communication and mission critical, or the support of IMS voice call using the GEO satellite access. But we were also introducing new use cases, as for example, the support of multi-orbit satellite access from different services, which, like you will see on the drawing, satellite, the service continuity plays a big role, or the notifying users when the mobile communication has failed. Last but not least, in release in 5G Advanced, what we are doing now is FMCS phase 6. I'm quite sure that most of you know that FMCS stands for Future Railway Mobile Communication System. This is the name of the technology, if you allow me to call that the railway system together with 3GPP developed for 5G. We have done this with the help of a lot of 3GPP members who are also members of the UIC, the International Union of Railway. And this has started already from release 15, which was the first release of 5G. Here we are in phase 6, and why we are in phase 6? Because the working groups of system requirements and services of the UIC are. This task force is regularly analyzing the specification and enhancing them from their side. So this work, this studying 3GPP, allow us to synchronize that work which is going outside 3GPP, like I said, led by the UIC, with the specifications that we have in 3GPP. And here we are already enhancing or adding new services. like for example, the merging of ad hoc group calls or the call forwarding for those groups. And that will be all for the 5G advanced part of release 20. So what I would like to do now is to focus on 6G, on what we are doing in 6G, that like I already introduced before, we are the first group who has been working or who is working on 6G in 3PP. And let me start with some initial considerations, 3PP wide. Not sure if the round one chair has already shared this, but please let me share it again with you. What we decided in 3PP, and again, this was wide 3PPs, that the work in, so the first thing we did, of course, was to understand the timelines from IMT 2030, the submission timelines, and once we did that with back rehearsed engineering, right, we saw that the moment to start was now, was release 20. And the first decision was to take or divide the work into releases. This is not new. We did already this in 5G, but we decided to get release 20 for studies across 3PP. So SA1, like I said, is already working in release 20. Other groups will start soon with release 20. So you will see a lot of studies related to 6G in release 20. How big and the content will depend on the group. And then the normative work, the technical specifications will come one release after, which will be release 21, which if you see the, sorry to change again the slide, but if you see the timeline for SA1 means that we will start, or the projected normative specifications are for March 2026. So we are talking more than 1 year. Our work, our study, we divide it in the requirement studies, which are the more stage one, right? SA1 was expected to approve the study by September 2024, and that happened. I will explain it in a bit. And then we have the RAM plenary seat that has to do with requirements and KPIs, really based on the requirements coming from IMT 2030. It's expected to be approved this December. Then when we talk about technology studies, which will be more stage 2 and stage 3, we already know the stage 2 studies will run or be approved from June 2025. So we can expect that if everything goes as planned, Q3 next year will already start with this stage 2. And we still will discuss later what will happen with the stage 3 with the CT, like we always do. Again, there are two real interests or two real objectives in 3PP when we talk about 6G. One thing is that we are really aiming for an IMT 2030 submission of normative work of 6G. So we are really aiming to be a 6G technology, the 3PP specifications, and we will do that from release 21. And the other thing that PCG already informed and give a note more than 1 year ago is that we are aiming for only one standard for 3PP and one standard worldwide in 6G. So now let me go to SA1. So in order to define a framework of a study of a new generation, you can imagine this is not business as usual for us. We normally don't have that big studies, only when we start a new generation. We defined three steps in order to get that study. The first one was the workshop that we had last May. This year in Rotterdam about stage 1 IMT 2030 use cases. I will go now more on detail on these three. And then we really had 2 meetings where 6G was allocated or play an important role on these meetings, as they were the one in the fantastic island of Jeju in South Korea, which is always a pleasure to go there, and later in the Netherlands in Maastricht. But let me go a bit step by step through this. So about the workshop, this was the first time in 3EPP that we organized a workshop for stage 1. And what was special for this workshop is that we invited external organizations to 3EPP. In this case, we invited global, regional, or global/regional research organizations as 6G SNS, as 6G Forum in Korea, 6G SNS in Europe, or Next Generation in America, and so on, and our market representation partners as NGMN, 5G ICEA, different verticals. And why did we do that? Because when we started planning the work in 3EPP SA1, and learning from the lessons that we had from 5G, we saw that there is a lot of work already done in 6G before standardization happened. So we thought that the best first step was to call all these people, to invite these people, to listen to these people, to also raise the level of the discussion at SA1, providing information of what is happening worldwide from a research perspective on 6G to the SA1 group. And to be honest, I must say, or maybe for me, being one of the organizers, it's easy to say that this was a success. But I think it really was, and we can see it in two points. One was the high number of delegates attending, or face-to-face or remotely. As you see, we had more than 600 people attending between face-to-face and remotely. The second was the experience, not only from the 3EPP SA1 members and other people from 3EPP who attended the workshop, which consider the information given there quite interesting, but also from external organizations like the ones that I've mentioned, which consider really fruitful to have a discussion with 3EPP, to be able to present the work done, and to even have a collaboration among them, because it was the first time, as far as I know, that these 6 organizations, or for example, these 6 global regional research organizations were together discussing. Just to go a bit fast, as you see, these are the organizations that we invited. So we had operators, we had verticals in these 2 sections, or in these 2 groups. We selected the organizations that we have an official relation with, our MRPs that we call, and then the research alliances. And you can see that 6G Forum from South Korea was invited and gave a really interesting presentation, but also the IMT 2030 promotional group from China, Next Generation Alliance from America, and so on. All the presentations of this workshop are available on the website, so I invite you to check it at the 3EPP website. Just some points. I will not be able to give you all the information of the workshop, but we did take some lessons or opinions from operators and from verticals for the 3EPP consideration. From operators, we hear that they still believe that 5G, and I think we all agree, still have a long way. So in many countries in the world, 5G started to be deployed, or started to be deployed at least in total, right? NSA. So we have the core finally deployed, and there is still a lot of services who has to develop. Also, 5G was quite some investment for operators, and they believe that there is a lot still to win from them. And they also see 6G as a migration, not such a revolution as 5G was from 4G. Also, one point is that they are aiming to provide a more balance between consumer and industry use cases, as for most of our operators, still consumers or are their main customers. And many of them, especially NGMN and GSMA point, but also like others like Orange, they really put the sustainability as one of the important points, as, for example, many of them are aiming for zero carbon emissions by 2030, for example, in Europe, and still there is other points that for them important. If we talk about verticals, well, we always have the life cycle matching between the products that the verticals needs that they need with a long life versus the release system of 3PP, and we try to do our best to have both. But also we heard things about sustainability, ubiquitous coverage, especially in the case of automotive or mission critical, and security and resilience as some important points from their presentations. Like I said before, the 6 research alliance from the 6 3PP regions were invited to present their visions on the use cases. Again, I think it was the first time that we had them together. Unfortunately, the Bharat 6G Alliance couldn't be there physically, although we did our best to allow the presentation online, but all the rest were there, and we could hear many common points from a technical, from what I call technical innovations or technical or new services, as sensing, as immersive experience, digital twins. I guess all of you will recognize this word. But they were also talking or telling us about new challenges, right, on the societies, like the aging population and the healthcare as point to be addressed by these use cases of 6G and by the technology. And also sustainability was highlighted by some of these organizations as one of the key objectives of the new generation of mobile networks. In the presentations that in the link that I show you or I provide you before, you will also find a summary with this table, which I think is quite representative of the workshop, where what we try to do here is to see these potentials that has been mentioned in many different presentations. And again, this is not, just to be clear, this is not exhaustive, and there is no priority here on these potentials, but we thought it was really interesting for also the delegates to see. You can see on the left the different presentations we had, and to see which kind of features were quite common in different presentations, as AI, as sustainability, as sensing, etc. Because I don't want to go really long, let me just explain you what are we doing now in 6G. So like I said, we agreed already the first seat, but before we have this workshop for external views, then we have our internal views given by 3 PPSA1 members in the 2 last meetings in Jeju and in Maastricht, and we had more than 50 presentations from different companies, which was quite interesting because there were a lot of commonalities, like it was expected a bit, right, on some of the features that these companies were aiming. That's why once we agreed the seat with a broad enough objective, because we want, or when we do a new generation, we want to be open to many ideas. Of course, we are going to use the IMT 2030 usage scenarios as a reference, or at least our partners are using it, but we are not limited to them. What we did is to discuss these commonalities of the features that many companies presented. For example, sensing or ubiquitous connectivity, immersive communication, just as an example. and agree on which of those were common and we were interested already to be on the study in order to already target use cases to those areas instead of just shooting use cases and then have to come with what are the areas coming from the study. This was an intensive intensive work, but our intensive task, but we resolved in 6 or 7 different common areas, which will help a lot to the work and the progress of the group. And however, this initial skeleton or these initial areas may be amended or extended, of course, during the duration of the study. And to conclude, this is my last slide, and I think that will be one of the more interesting for many of you. How to contribute? What our next steps? Well, first, let me say, like I've already said in a couple of places, our deadline for this study is March 2026. And the meeting we will have in Orlando in a couple of weeks will be the first one where we are accepting the 6G use cases. There you have the deadline for the submission, which are this week. So everything is happening soon. It will be important, of course, to sorry for that, to use the right templates for SA1. If you are aiming to do a use cases, all the 3PP members attending to SA1 are invited to bring the use cases. What will play a big role this time on the SA1 contributions will be the gap analysis in order to being able to differentiate the 5G use cases or the 16 use cases from really the new use cases for this generation. This was really discussed or really highlighted by many of the SA1 partners, and I can say this will play definitely a critical role when deciding what use cases go in the study. And last but not least, if you allow me, although it's not from SA1, I would like to remind you all that early next year, in March 2025, the 3PP will also hold the workshop as TSG level on 6G, where the system architecture and other aspects will be discussed among the 3PP partners. So the different 3PP members will bring their visions on these 2 different areas, and then the respective groups will start taking the decisions in order to, again, put in motion those studies for the stage 2, which should be or are aimed to be defined and approved by June 2025. And that was everything from me. I really hope this was interesting, and I hope that now you have a better view of what SA1 is doing, and also what are the first steps that 3PP is doing in 6G, as we are the group working on it. And I'm really happy to get any question if that's possible. And if not, please, you have my email there. Do not hesitate to contact me if I can answer any question or help with anything. Thanks a lot for the invitation again and your attention.